You got me on, right? Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, Tuesday morning here on the Dave Elswick Show. Good to have you along. Ryan Norris back in the saddle for today from now until 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, Carlton Wing will join us. As you know, Carlton took over running the public television here in Arkansas, and I'm having him on today because yesterday the Corporation of Public Broadcasting announced that they're going out of business. They're going out of business. No big surprise there. When you look at their charter, what they were supposed to do, I don't think they did what they were supposed to do. They said they were to further the educational progress of American children, help with cultural television that most Americans couldn't get, and you don't need you don't need government television to do that any longer. You just don't need it. It's not necessary. I've talked on the air here. Look, I was in college when the Corporation of Public Broadcasting got started. One of my professors, Dr. Larry Netherton, was one of the people that helped put that all together. Here's the problem. This was 1971, Ryan, all right, 1971. And I was arguing then that we didn't need the government to have all of these TV stations to take care of the American citizenry.
Yeah. It
just wasn't necessary. And he and I had some pretty good rows in the classrooms before. And he passed away last December. And he was a good man. I'm not saying that he was a bad man. I just think that he was what you would call a limousine liberal. I mean, and he loved to spend other people's money, and it was very obvious.
Right.
And a lot of my fellow students thought the same way I did. But they wouldn't speak up because they were afraid they'd get a bad grade. Well, you know what? I never got a bad grade from Larry Netherton. He was an upstanding guy as far as that. You could disagree with him, and he'd still give you a good grade if you didn't agree with him. And that's the way a professor's supposed to be.
That's the way it was back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, we actually disagreed and got along.
Yeah, we did. But this is the day. Yesterday was one of the days that I've been looking forward to for a long time. And to see them go to close their doors and be done with it, I'm all about it. There's no reason that, tens of millions of dollars should be siphoned off of American taxpayers to run TV stations. Look, if the government wants to run TV stations, but they want to sell advertising and get people out on the street and sell ads and stuff, that's one thing. It's another thing when you've got these TV stations and the federal government is just shoveling millions and millions of dollars into their coffers. And then when they said, well, we're really not making enough money, what we'll do is turn around and take this money and tell we won't sell commercials because, that was illegal to sell a commercial spot. But you could sell a sponsorship. That wasn't a commercial. And, to that I say BS. Have you ever watched that, Steve? Those sponsorships, they sure look like commercials to me, don't they to you?
They do, and they walk that fine line because technically it's supposed to be not a call to action. So it's basically they can say this programming is brought to you by McDonald's, and McDonald's has great Big Macs and French fries, but you can't tell them to go buy them.
Yeah, and you can have their logo on everything that you do with that program. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
But it is still an advertisement. There's no getting around it. Yet they get all the tax breaks and they get all the everything that we don't get.
Yeah, I need to call over to was it KLUR? Is that the radio station at Euler?
I actually worked there when I was in college.
Okay, so I need to call over there. I want to know how this is going to affect them.
For real, I know. That's a good question.
As far as I mean, we had a NPR station on the campus of Morehead State University.
Yeah.
And when you were going to school there, you were required to do so many hours a week at the radio station. So I remember sitting up early in the morning at times, running the board, so everybody could listen to All Things Considered.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, All Things Considered has been around forever.
I had a friend who ran the late night public radio in Kilgore, Texas, Kilgore College. And it was all classical music. And you're like,
oh, yeah.
There's like 12 people maybe that may be listening to that, and you're thinking that was being funded by
a lot of money.
About a lot of money. And it's just like, I mean, I get it. I like classical music, but now you can stream it if you want.
And even during that time, you could get classical music in other spots.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to listen to the college station to get classical music. Yeah. And that's always been my bellyache about it. Always been my bellyache. And like I said, look, that started in 1971, so what is that, 50 years ago?
Yeah.
The bottom line is that it's about time that we're not throwing our money towards that.
Yeah, I think that with what is being brought to light on issues like the spending and the taxpayer money going to public broadcasting, and then the Somali daycare situation, and it's probably beyond just the Somalis. There's probably others out there that are taking advantage of those things. That the American taxpayer is feeling scammed. Like we get up,
we've
we go
been
to
telling
work.
them for years about this stuff.
Yes,
Wade fraud and abuse is not a new term by a long stretch.
Right, but now it's like in our face, and it's so bad that a candidate for governor in Minnesota, Tim Walz, decides I can't run with this kind of heat. It obviously had to be really bad, and I would suspect, it is real because they had 90-some folks charged, and at least 60 of them have been convicted.
Yeah,
that's two-thirds of those that were charged with fraud. So that's bad. And the fact that there hasn't been any safeguards put in place to protect the taxpayers' money is
well, I got to tell you,
not good at all.
I mentioned this to you before we went on the air. I want a full investigation of Omar.
Dude.
The Congresswoman Omar. I think she's as dirty as they come.
It could be. I mean, if she's connected to it. She said some things that are just very puzzling to me about where her loyalties lie and
with the Somali people.
Yeah, and
she's been very clear about that.
Yeah, I've got a lineage that's Irish, and I don't go out there saying that my loyalty is to just the Irish people, kind of thing. It's
even Tip O'Neill.
I mean, I'm Irish at least on March. At St. Patrick's Day. I'm March. Now I lean into any connection whatsoever in Cinco de Mayo. I'm also Spanish, Mexican, that day too. I love those kind of holidays, celebrate with friends around those kind of issues. But the point being that if you are to be a representative in the United States government, yes,
you represent all the people.
Represent your district, yes, but also represent the principles and the values, and don't put up with your country being scammed.
Yep.
And if there's any kind of connection there, yes, I think Congress needs to take a look into her and see what's going on there. But right now, there's plenty of there's plenty of smoke, and there's also obviously some fire to this. And,
there is in Minnesota, and there is in Mississippi,
and it's Ohio too. They say
really?
There's it's expanded into Ohio.
Good.
And I just think that there needs to be a top to bottom audit of all of the programs. What I have, working in public policy, and we care at Americans for Prosperity. We're here for Americans for prosperity. That's all economic strata. We're for everybody. So is there times where government is helpful to those that are in need, and there's and charity just can't close that gap? Yes, maybe so. Is that the ideal? No. Is it something that we would say you want to expand on? No, you don't want to do that. What frustrates is when you have situations to where tax dollars have gone to help those that are least fortunate, and Americans in general are kind of okay with that if it's authentic. If it's not authentic, we feel scammed on that.
Well, and it should feel that way.
And it makes it more difficult on us to feel empathetic when those things come. When you had the cuts to programs, or it wasn't even cuts, it was just saying you can't buy sugary sweets and things with your SNAP dollars. People were getting on social media and complaining about it. And they're like, well, why can't I buy snack cakes, and why can't I buy this, that, and the other? Well, Dave, I grew up as a kid to where we didn't get a choice. We got a commodity box when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
It had the dried milk in it. It had some canned beef. It had, all these things that Mom went and took and turned it into wonderful meals for us.
Usually a big glob of butter.
Oh, yeah, big glob of butter. And then, of course, man, it was like Christmas if you got the government cheese in there. That was one of my favorite. My goodness, that was one of the favorite flavors. That's why I like Five Guys hamburgers. Their cheese tastes like commodity cheese.
Well, that's what
maybe
Velveeta
not the best plug
teaches,
for them.
Velveeta tastes like government cheese.
Yeah, it does, and that's why I like. People ask me, why do you like going to Five Guys? Well, that's part of the reason why. It's the nostalgia of that flavor, kind of thing. But the point being, you didn't get a choice. You got subsistence commodities.
They gave you products that you could turn into
nutritious meals.
That's correct.
That's it.
And that's what it was all supposed to be about. And somewhere along the line, it turned into taking a EBT card and going down to your local Pizza Hut and buying a 12-inch pizza.
Right. It went into that. It went into... some folks are. I'm reading on here some of these folks, and I'm very skeptical nowadays because of AI and such as to what I accept as truthful. But there appears to be more than one videos that are out there to where they're saying, "How am I supposed to feed myself and my 4 kids on $4,000 a month?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, 4,000? What in the world? I do about way a fraction of that to feed my family,
like 10% of it.
And what's also happened, and they're finding this out, and they're catching some of these folks, is there are those that will buy their food with the EBT card, take the remainder of it, get it transferred into cash at a lower cash value. Let's say they spend $1,000 of it. They have $3,000 left. Well, they'll sell it for $2,000 to somebody else who gets the $3,000 on there, and then they do things with it, and they'll go buy food for their stores or for their whatever.
Well, they were taking care of what's his name of Venezuela.
Oh yeah,
and part of those 20 tons of cocaine that he was selling.
And that's another whole conversation in on this. But I think that there needs to be audits from top to bottom. on everything. I mean, I'm even talking about defense budgets, all of that. Anywhere, it's not
any
just,
place where you can be skimming.
Yeah.
You should be checked.
Yes. And because the taxpayer deserves that accountability. And right now it's really tough to if this is true, it's tough as a taxpayer to get up, go to work in the morning knowing that you're struggling to keep food on the table for your family, a roof over their head, and then you have those that appear to do way better than you financially off the taxpayer dime. That is just unacceptable.
Yep, and I agree with that. Let's take a break, and we'll come back. We'll talk more about this and a lot of other things. I'm looking forward to getting Carlton Wing on at 9 o'clock and hear what he has to say about the closing of the Corporation of Public Broadcasting and how that's going to affect really public broadcasting here in the state of Arkansas. Don't forget about East End Towing. You get stuck on the side of the road, you call East End Towing. They'll take care of you. And they'll take care of you in a way that your car or your truck or your work vehicle, you don't have to worry about anything happening to it. They have the equipment for the biggest 18-wheeler or the biggest Type A RV out on the road, or the smallest, just to get your smart car on the back of a pickup truck, basically, and get it taken to where it needs to go, to have it worked on and get it back onto the road for you to get to work or get around during your work. All you have to do is call them, 501-888-8849. That's 501-888-8849. I mean, what happens after you make that call for a tow truck? Well, the folks at East End Towing are going to take all of your information, and then they will tell you, we'll be there, and they'll give you a pretty good estimate about when they'll be out on the road to take care of you. Here's one thing that I know won't happen, and that's if you happen, I blew out a tire a few years ago, and I had to get into the shoulder on the left side of the road. And I had two tow companies say, well, we can't come out and take care of you because you're on the left side of the road. You got to get on the right side of the road. And I said, the tire blew out when I was in the fast lane, and I got off the road, so I didn't have a wreck, all right? And now you're telling me you can't come and hook me up, and because the tire was shredded. And I can get another tire or whatever. No, sir, we won't go over into the left lane because it's just too dangerous. You won't be told that by East End Towing, because they train their people how to handle themselves out on the road, and they'll take care of you. All you have to do is remember to call them, 501-888-8849, and anything, anytime, anywhere, East End Towing. When you're talking about spinal pain, that I've had him on several times, and the doc comes on, and it just amazes me of the stuff that he's working on all the time. There's all kinds of new technologies, and he travels all over the world to keep himself up to date on things that can help you with your backs and things of that nature. I can tell you what, my wife suffers from back pain at times, and it comes out of nowhere. I mean, it's not like she went out and was squatting 700 pounds or something and threw out a lower vertebrae or something. That's not what's going on. She just suddenly gets a nerve pinch or something like that, and it makes things literally a living hell every day for her. I mean, it's a problem, and the doctor does good things and gets it where they used to not be able to treat that type of pain, and now they can, and it's great. It's the treatment of pain is a whole field to itself. The doctors realize, it's one thing to cure a disease. It's another thing to be able to cure the pain so that you can enjoy the rest of your life. And that's what he does over there at Elswick. He does a great job. You should look into it if you're having, back pain, or if you're suffering from cancer or something like that. He can help you out with that. You should talk to him about it. All right, 727, Ryan Norris sitting in the studio, Americans for Prosperity. And so this is something we've been talking about, the waste, fraud, and abuse of Minnesota, Ohio now, Mississippi. By the way, the one in Mississippi really bothers my heart because it's Ted DiBiase Jr. That's being put on trial, and that's Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man's son. And he's got to be rolling in his grave. Really does. That's happened. If you don't know who that is, look up the WWE and look at the history and read about Ted. All right, he was a great wrestler back in the day. Well, was that been the late '60s, early '70s, wasn't it?
Well, the late '60s, early '70s was his dad, Iron Mike DiBiase.
Yeah,
and Ted DiBiase still alive.
Oh, is he still
alive? As
of
last report? Yes.
Okay, so there's enough of them that it's hard to keep up with them. But
that's right.
The $1 Million Man was a lot of fun. He was a lot of fun. All right, we got news coming up. We got, of course, Bill O'Reilly. He'll join us here at the bottom of the hour. We'll hear what he has to say. I'm sure something tells me, I haven't listened to it, but something tells me he's going to talk about Tim Walz today. I haven't talked about him, as far as Tampon Tim goes. But, he's not going to run for the governorship of Minnesota again. So the fallout from the embarrassment that the people in Minnesota are experiencing right now with all of this cheating that's going on and the welfare scandal that's happening there must be really eating away at his support badly. But let's hear from Bill O'Reilly, see what he has to tell us today. All right. We're back. I was just talking. I was asked about another serious topic by Ryan just a moment ago. What's the big deal with Landman? What's going on about that show that's got everybody so riled up and upset? Have you heard about this?
Oh, I love Landman.
All right. Well, last week the episode set people off. A lot of people.
Oh, now see, okay. I have not seen the latest episode. I'm up to it, but I was out of town Sunday night, so I wasn't able to watch.
Well, and you've seen the episode I'm talking about because it was the week before that you're talking about. What it was is that Billy Bob Thornton is lying in bed in a hotel room, and the lady comes in to make the bed or whatever, and she looks and she has this frightened look on her face, and she says, "Please don't rape me." She starts screaming at him, and he's got some morning wood going on, and he's pitching a tent in the bed, and everybody got all uptight about it. And
he said in the episode that it was his wife's fault for making him take an extra blue pill.
That's right. He took 2 blue pills the night before, and they didn't do anything, and he was having problems with it. So anyway, I'm just thinking that's not even close to the things that I've watched on Landman that would irritate me. As far I'm irritated with the daughter, man, that is so dumb. She's just a cheerleader, and she's going to TCU now, and some of the things that she says and the way she runs her life. Now, that's something to wonder about. And if I was a young person and watched that, I'd be shaking my head, to be honest. But what's say? Anyway, I thought that was a big bunch of nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, it'd been one thing if they had showed a full nude shot of him, frontal nude shot of him, as far as that. But that's not what happened. I just don't get it. And people, they get upset about the strangest quirks, and they're all They should take it off. It's on cable. No, it's not cable. It's being streamed. All right? You've got to pay to get the company that's streaming that show. Mm-hmm. So if you don't like it, write a letter to the people who are streaming it and say, stop it, or I'll cut my stream fee off to you, as far as that goes. So anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was a whole lot of hooly about nothing, so don't worry about it. All right? You're not losing anything.
You got to get upset about something nowadays.
I guess. You know, in America, if people don't have something to complain about, they'll make up something to complain about. At least that's what it seems like to me. All right? There are serious issues to be complaining about, like Minnesota and Mississippi and fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'll be interested to see, as we watch them clean this stuff up, what do the American people want done about that? If you get Wayne Beach's information that he puts out on Facebook, he wrote a really good article about that here in the last day or two. And it's really good. It's excellent. He makes some very valid points that people don't want to do the real work. They want to get upset, and they want to fire off a little, takes you about 30 seconds, shot to your Facebook page or somebody else's Facebook page. But to get out and knock on doors, to pick up a phone and to call people and to do the real work that it takes to make change, they don't want to do any of that.
I have thoughts on that, Dave.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have thoughts.
I'm going to sit down here. You go ahead.
Yeah, well, it goes to politics goes, and policy definitely goes, to those that show up. To those that show up. And so much of the frustrations that people have could be mitigated if they would just simply do that. And that is part of what our job is. There is this misconception, I get this happen at times, to where individuals call and say, hey, I need AFP to come in and help and take care of this issue. Well, that's not the way this works. The way it works is we help train and resource you to take care of your own issues. This isn't the Give a Man a Fish program. This is a Teach You to Fish program, because what we teach is not necessarily novel. And it's not overly complex. There are ways of going about achieving the policy wins and improving your quality of life through the processes that exist politically and in policy to make your life easier and better. But complaints that you hear, even if you boil down some of the complaints that people have about, say, lobbyists under the dome. Well, those are interests that understand being there is very important, and so they pay for people to show up for them. Well, when you look at what AFP works on, the things that we work on are directly tied to the quality of life of individuals in Arkansas. We work on healthcare policy. We work on education policy. We work on tax policy, government accountability and transparency, all of those things. And it's not a special interest that we have at AFP. It's the trying to represent the interests of the people at large.
Right.
And what gives credibility to that kind of effort is when more people show up to have their opinion heard. Now, some days it takes a lot of people. When you're talking about issues that can be labeled as economic development, there's a little bit of a bias to support those kind of things because it says economic development. Who doesn't like economic development? We all like that. Now, that economic development may come at the expense of the people at large at times. There are scenarios in which that happens. But if the people understand that it's not in their interest, or that the return isn't as good for them as it is for the others,
right?
The way to change that is to be heard and to show up. And there needs to be more citizen activists under the dome in Arkansas. And, even nationally, there needs to be more. But definitely here in Arkansas, have your opinions heard. If you're frustrated by these things, social media back and forth gets you so far. Talking to your own, echo chamber of friends doesn't get you very far at all. Understanding what needs to change, how it can change, and then organizing to change it is where representative government really happens. Getting upset and getting emotional starts off to be helpful. It gives you kind of that drive, but you've got to have an organized approach to changing these policies.
Oh, sure.
A lot of people don't understand the fundamentals of how a bill becomes a law. And therefore, since they don't know that, they can't really affect change in that.
Well, and you know what? Numbers play a huge part in that. If enough people let their elected officials know that they're paying attention to whatever issue it is, you'll be surprised at how a lot of the votes that you're trying to affect get affected.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key piece. I mean, even just being in the room and seeing how it all works out is valuable and helpful. We need to do some more just basic civics courses. AFP, we did that quite a bit back in the day, to where you just went through the Americans for Prosperity Foundation and you walk through, like, how does this actually work and how can I actually affect that change? And then once you know how, with AFP, we also then train you on how to organize and how to message to affect that change. And we need more individuals who are willing to take that on. Now, again, I point to recently, Americans for Prosperity was partnered with the Sherwood, I believe, Sherwood Tax Truth, and defeated $93 million in taxes.
Good for them.
But that was us partnering with the local local citizens who were willing to make phone calls and willing to walk and knock doors with us. And when that happened, you see the result. You see that the result was a positive thing for the people who needed and wanted to keep more money in their pocket because they didn't have confidence in what their city was telling them they were going to spend the money on, or they just wasn't their priority. And government has to be okay with that when the people say, "Oh, that's just not my priority."
I think what really got them was when it was found out that new shelter that they wanted to build was going to have heated floors because they didn't want the animals to get cold paws. Yeah. I guess I'm assuming that's the reason they were going to put heated floors in.
Maybe, but if you looked at the square footage and the cost per square footage by one estimate that was being made, it was like $1,000 a square foot, which homes over in Sherwood aren't at $1,000 a square foot.
Right.
So the people looked at these things, they balanced out what they were hearing, and then they voted in their interest, and their interest was, I'd rather keep the money in my own pocket.
And rightly so. Rightly so. That's the way it should have been for them. All right, let's get our next break in. We'll do that. We're almost wrapping up the first hour. It's amazing. I'll bring Ryan Norris in here, and everything goes really fast. We'll be back with him in just a moment here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. Been trying to pull up that article from Wayne, but I can't get it now off of Facebook. I'll keep looking. If I find it, I'll read it because it's really good. Or I won't read all of it. I'll just read a few paragraphs of it because he was right on the money. Wayne is a lot of times right on the money, and he's got a lot of good ideas, and he talks about those ideas. He comes on the show to share that's the reason I have him on when I have him on. The people I like to put on the show are the people who will not, under any circumstances, put a filtering mask on when the mic goes on. I want you to say what you think and what you feel. That's what I want. That's what this show is all about, and we've done that as well. And there's just the way that it works. I mean, the folks at the The View do it every day. Say things that most of us, I would say the majority of my listeners for sure, think is absolutely crazy, but they say them. And, what a lot of people don't know, they go, well, all those people agree with them that are sitting in the studio. No, they don't. You got applause lights in there. They flash the applause light and stuff. And part of being there for that live show is to be on there and clap and hoot and holler for them when they feel that they need you to be backing, Whoopi or Joy or whoever it might be that's saying the asinine stuff that they're saying.
Yeah. Again, it goes to getting your opinion out there. This is a country that enjoys its First Amendment free speech rights. When you see it collapsing in other countries, in other Western countries, in Europe particularly, of course, you need to exercise your voice in this. If you're frustrated by what is going on, you're not happy about it, you want to change it, you can connect with us at AFP, and we can find you meaningful and purposeful projects and campaigns to join that will help you. We talk about all the time mutual benefit. What is it that AFP can do to benefit the people that we're doing business with? And by that, we're talking about the citizen. Each citizen gets outclassed and outgunned by other interest. AFP is here to help bring that balance back. And we just pointed to Sherwood. Sherwood situation where the city government is setting the chessboard up the way that they want. They're controlling when these initiatives would go to the ballot, and they're controlled. They're usually arm in arm with the local chambers of commerce and those that would be interested in the contracts that would come from the projects that the money would fund, and they all get in bed. When you look at ballot initiatives, economic developments, particularly, who is it that's contributing the most to saying we need your tax dollars? It's going to be those that will benefit from your tax dollars.
When you're looking at adding a road somewhere or whatever. Mm-hmm. Always expect that the people who pour the concrete and stuff are going to want you to vote for it. The contractors
associations, asphalt associations, concrete, companies will pour their money in because they're thinking, I'll put a few $1,000s into the effort, and if the people vote for this, then I'm going to make millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars.
I'll give you a
so it's a good ROI.
really good illustration of that, and that was a couple of years ago. When Asa Hutchinson wanted to have an addition to the Constitution for a 0.5% being put into the road funds.
Yeah, into general sales tax to go in. Yeah, we opposed that.
And rightly so.
And had disagreements with him on that. But, again, you have...
But look at the people who supported it.
Well, your trucking association folks, all this, the folks that do the most damage on the road were wanting, the taxpayers to pay for it. And not on a tax that was like associated to vehicles. It was a tax that's just general sales tax. That's on buying an article of clothing. What does that article of clothing have to necessarily do with...
a turnaround.
What does it have to do with any of that? And then, there's just even more things to talk about and unpacking that. But the point being that if you are upset about that, if you think that going and saying we need to silence those voices aren't the way to go. The way to go is to organize and make sure that your voice is heard in that conversation and heard with the same matching intensity, because you're a voter. They can put the special interests can put resources towards the things they're interested in to a small select group of people, but those small select group of people are elected by you.
That's
so
exactly
when the
right.
voters get out and talk to other voters, that is when you build momentum and mass and be like, hey, we voted you in to represent us. You're not representing us. Therefore, our vote is up for whoever will next time.
Absolutely.
And that's the leverage you have as a voter.
And that's what primaries are for.
And one voter, they can ignore you. 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe, starts ticking up. They start paying a little bit more attention because they know that there's more people out there actually thinking like that. And so that's what AFP is designed to do, is to help voters have their voice heard to their elected officials in a way that is the proper way of going about it, not being disrespectful, not being argumentative, but just laying out the facts and laying out what you want and what you need, and then helping those voters hold their elected officials accountable. We've taken some slings and arrows over time about letting people in districts know what's actually going on regarding their family budgets, around energy policy or tax policy. And are there people that don't appreciate what we do? Yeah, there are. But you know who they are? Usually the people that want the full control to take from your pocket every time they want, however much they want. And we don't think that's right. We think that the voter needs to have a say. And they'll be, we've talked about this. Well, you've talked about it in, your local civic clubs, to the people that you're well connected with, at the social structure and strata that can probably absorb the money that you're talking about. But what about those folks that are trying to make ends meet day to day, week to week, month to month? You're not talking to them and telling them, oh, this is going to really benefit you. Well, how so? If it doesn't give me more money to make my family budget, how does this help me? And then there's this convoluted, economic development is going to be billions of dollars. Well, the people down here aren't going to see that. They're going to want to know, is that project going to help me with my quality of life? They're not going to receive those jobs. They're more than likely. They're not going to receive any of the benefits, financially from those projects. And so it needs to be considered, right? Everybody's, if it's a state-based large capital project particularly, and the state has an interest in it, funding it either directly or indirectly, I would say, by giving approval for these projects or whatever they may be, the citizen's voice needs to be heard. And it needs to be heard by those that are not able to be influenced by the other side. There's this, hey, Ryan, don't worry, man. The voice is represented by, this agency or this body. Well, yeah, but they're elected or they're appointed by elected officials.
It works a lot better if it's just average Joe and Joettes that are calling.
Yeah, that works. Yes, and and if there are leaders who understand and have principled approaches to this and understand that those voices need to be made, the higher up the food chain you are in the socioeconomics, those voices really do get to be heard. And so that's what we do. We have people from all strata of life that support Americans for Prosperity here in the state. And there's times I'm saying, hey, I really could use your voice. And,
I got you.
And, they're like, okay, I'll give a few phone calls. And they help move that policy or block that policy that's going to be in detriment to the people.
All right, we got 1 hour in the book. Got another hour coming your way after the news here on the Dave Elswick Show. Ryan Norris, our special guest, here until 9 o'clock from Americans with Prosperity, the Arkansas chapter. I'm Dave Elswick. Stick around. We got a lot more for you.
This is the Dave Elswick Show. Find him on Twitter and on Facebook at Dave Elswick Show. Dave Elswick Show.